right, it is 8:05, so I am going to ask that we call this meeting to order for whatever order we actually have. So welcome. This is an opportunity for us to consider all societies' planning for the future. So one of the things I am hoping is that we'll spend a little time talking about all societies' platforms from the past, so that we can kind of incorporate some ideas for the future now, rather than have to sort of figure it out a bit later. That's the main thing. And so just we do have a calendar coming forward where the months with 5 Sundays are not holiday months, for a change of pace. And so it looks like October, January, April, and June are all months that have a 5th Sunday, and that Sunday does not fall on a holiday. I guess you can argue about Halloween, but still, it's a good thing we don't have to be messing around. We also have an offer from the Long Island Ethical Society that we can talk about, and we have a proposal coming for January as well. All right, so but before we get there, let's.
And I have a proposal for April.
Oh, hot damn, Rich, you are well met here. Okay, so why don't we take a little bit of time talking about our most recent effort, which was the All Societies platform just a week ago. Not even a week, was it a week? I guess a week and change now. Any thoughts that people have in terms of how that went and what your takeaway was?
All the feedback that I've gotten from people who attended, they really liked it and they thought it was well done, and we're appreciative.
All right, and things that stood out of those appreciations. Let's figure out what are the highlights and. I know a number of people contacted me about the interviews. That people seem to like the that format and how those interviews went.
Right.
Yeah, really personalized things.
And it also gave it a nice time limit that if you surrender the screen to somebody, you never know. As we've seen in many of our live Anna Garland Spencer events in the past.
This is true.
You need the little crook to grab somebody and pull them off stage. So,
So this isn't on the platform itself, but I'm just now wondering if there's a way to kind of alternate the All Societies with something that's like more internal and personalized versus like a Jamie Raskin thing. You know, to kind of mix it up a little bit.
Right. So all societies just means that every society is invited. It doesn't say that it has to be about societies, just that every society needs to be invited. So that's the one thing that holds it together. So Jamie Raskin was an All Societies platform, and the Yes program was an All Societies platform, even though they're quite different.
Right.
So,
right.
I don't think we've
understanding your concern or what your wish is.
I don't think we've captured a successful process for doing breakouts or response.
And we could.
We could do that, and I think it makes more sense to speak among people who would be involved in a common reaction, or if they're inspired to do something or to have further study or whatever. It makes sense to have that be local. But that extends the time. It wouldn't have to be a common time, but there would have to be some provision. And if we're doing it for a national audience, then we have time zones. And the Eastern time zone people already are starting, quote unquote, late in their heads. But I think we have to keep that group dynamic in mind.
All right. Let me see if I got this clear, because my understanding, Laura, is what you're asking about is in terms of the content, what is the way that we would establish expectations around the content so that we can include a variety of different kinds of things? Did I get that right?
Yes, yes.
And
And
from Jeff, I get the sense that you're wondering about what belongs within the meeting itself and what are the things that might belong next to the meeting or outside of the meeting or following the meeting and that sort of thing, right?
Right.
But we've done a variety of things so far. Sometimes some things within. Yeah, Rich?
I'm going to add just the concept of, we're talking about all society meetings on the 5th Sunday, 4 of them in a year. I don't feel that we need to necessarily limit it to only 4 a year. I mean, I think that for many societies, particularly the smaller societies, offering something that is about just an interesting topic presented by one of our leaders, somebody that's available to everybody, could be incredibly valuable. And it could be done in one of two ways. It could be done in a completely Zoom setting, where the breakouts are then specific to each society. It could be breakouts general and divided, in amongst all of the participants. And it could be a combination of in-person and video, where the presentation itself is on Zoom, but then the conversation amongst the members of the society. So again, just thinking about COVID, thinking about some of the ways that we could gain from this, I think we should, and it's what's making me think about it is Laura's comment about what kinds of things should we cover.
Mhm.
Well, there's so many. You could come up with 4 different topics, which would mean you'd have one session each if we only limited it to 4.
Right. So one of the things you're saying is you don't see a particular reason that the all society platforms would be limited to the 4 that we've agreed we would do, which would be the 5th Sunday ones. That, to your mind, having it open so that there could be additional ones is a friendly idea to you.
yeah,
That's correct.
I agree with that. So the other thing, I just kind of picking up again on the format kind of thing. One of the things I had mentioned to you, Bart, after the last one was having schmooze time.
Mhm.
And for if we were planning something that was going to have breakout stuff after the platform, then the schmooze time should probably be in the beginning. So that it doesn't. I think having breakout rooms and then schmooze time might take up too much time. I'm not sure what the tolerance level for folks are.
What does virtual schmooze time look like?
Well, it'd be breakouts.
Okay.
Local breakouts rather than hybrid.
And so Rich, kind of in picking up on what you were saying, I much prefer having opportunities to schmooze or discuss with members from other societies, not my own.
Right. Okay.
So they could like a social hour beforehand or 30 minutes.
Right. But a breakout room to discuss a topic would be, it might not look differently, but the format would be different.
And I think having a little bit of a social period beforehand reduces the awkwardness of trying to entertain people as they arrive.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anna was
She's
always
great for that.
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Trish, you had your hand raised. So-
Yeah, I was thinking the thought of planning more platforms is daunting to me, but I wondered about thinking about what Rich was saying.
Oh, hold on, your audio is breaking up.
Oh, really?
Give it another crack.
Yeah. I thinking about what Rich was saying, I wonder if we just promoted, if we promote the hybrid platforms that already exist. St.
Mhm.
Louis is hybrid every week. I think Westchester, isn't Westchester a hybrid?
Mhm.
The ones that are hybrid could just kind of be put in our AEU calendar so people would have that option.
Right. They actually already are.
They already are. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. But so I think that a good thing for us to be thinking about here is um, this group is not meant to limit what can happen. It's meant to make sure something happens, right? So I actually do encourage this group staying on track with the 4 societies a year as a focus, at least first, to make sure that we have them. And a reason why we do the fifth Sundays is we were getting a lot of pushback when we started talking about this, that many societies have their calendar well in advance,
Right.
and that the best shot we have is a fifth Sunday, which tends to be less advanced, less likely to be advanced scheduled than others, or at least it's the kind of thing that you can then make a prediction well in advance with your planning group. So, you know, it's kind of this is an opportunity that we have that can be pretty broadly adopted. And so I think it's really important that we hold on to those and that we make sure we have a solid program going forward for those as we can. We struggled this year with those programs. One of the things that was really hoped is that we would often have headliners. And it was difficult to get headliners this year. We had two instances where we wound up punting kind of at the 11th hour, largely because the efforts that were made to secure a speaker did not come to fruition. So that is something just to keep in mind. So one of the benefits of doing programs that are based on in-house talent is that you have a better sense that people are going to show for it. It's the people that we say are going to organize it. On the other end, the turnouts can be considerably larger when we have a named person, right? So you got a bit of a seesaw happening here, right? If you can do it well with advanced planning, you can really turn out a good number. We had over 900 people, almost 1,000 people for Jamie Raskin. We kept bumping up against the limit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bart, that's why I was thinking about maybe alternating, so there wouldn't be so much pressure on trying to find, big name for every session. And that I think I think having people coming from kind of internally within the movement and speaking to issues of the movement is a way of also bringing us together in a way that some, an outside person may not in the same way, but picking out something that all of us care about, or all of us are working with, or all of us are struggling with how to do. I mean, all the whole gender, racist, et cetera, stuff is big stuff for all of us.
Jeff?
Yeah, I'm just coming off a program committee meeting this afternoon. And we're sort of reviewing our recent attempts to experiment with different forms of Sunday program. And what was really articulated was a desire to have a richer mix of stuff that's either all society or our own local society. Because you can get names. We've had speaker Saturdays where we had people with big social media following, published academics. The relevance to any particular ethical quandary was not immediately apparent. And so there was a very slender participation. We used it by rebroadcasting it on Sunday and got, I think, even less interest. It was like too academic, too unfocused, a lot of data, so that we are now thinking, first of all, to get more of a mix of all society in our own. We've got so many agendas on the social action front that there's not going to be any shortage of ideas. It's putting an interesting program together. The other thing we decided to do was actually poll our membership. And I think, we can come up with our best ideas, but a 1 or 2 question little poll on Sunday, handed in at the end, might be helpful. We can get a sense of things, but if we ask, specific questions, people may tell us what they like and don't like.
Yeah, so I think adding in a how did we do questionnaire, we've done that from time to time, and I think that should be something that we do routinely, to be honest. That would be a good idea. So in terms of October, and this is topical. So the Long Island Ethical Society has an arrangement now with Russ Feingold, who is a former senator. Russ Feingold.
Yeah.
Former senator and is a former U.S. senator, and is currently engaged in a what is it now? He's the president of the American Constitution Society.
Oh,
And so, yeah, I think it's certainly a timely topic. This is somebody that has enough name recognition that it makes sense to me, and it's already confirmed. And Long Island has said that they are willing to be the host organization for the day.
does he live on Long Island now?
I'm sorry?
Does he live on Long Island now?
I have no idea where he lives and what their arrangement is.
He's in Wisconsin.
Yeah, so the main thing is what they would be prepared to do is to provide a lot of the work around how the morning is structured and some of the presiding and things along those lines. And then the union would still be providing the Zoom platform and the technical assistance for managing that day for sure. I would like to recommend that in addition, this group also offer additional planners to help them kind of ensure that it is an all societies gathering as opposed to a Long Island gathering that everybody else gets to be part of. So I think having a bit of additional influence to the planning of that would be wise and helpful.
Yeah, I'm just noticing, I got a couple of catalogs for Westchester Community College and Scarsdale Adult School. There's a lot of offerings around the Constitution and the Supreme Court as sort of like adult education. And I think that should be one of our themes, and we could pick it up very easily from Adler, with civic society, that we take a determination throughout AEU and the societies that we're going to raise our level of understanding and develop a humanist frame for some of the issues that are buffeting our institutions. I'm glad to hear that.
Potential overlap with the ethical action committee's efforts.
Right.
Be strongly related to this, and maybe the possibility that we could build more of a campaign, not just a
exactly
day's event, but something that has a bit more oomph to it.
Yes, so that makes me remember, I was thinking about this just a few minutes ago, that whether we have a national known name or it's coming more from internal, I'd like to see us take whatever the content is and in the breakout rooms come up with, and what can we do? What do we do? What are the tools and techniques that we need to understand so that we can be out there in our own communities supporting whatever that issue is? Because I think that's what gets lost.
And I think that's more important now because I think given the frustration of the conflicted dialogue on the national stage and really destructive tendencies in the opinions, but other initiatives and a holdup of legislation, the table we want to be at is more local, our own communities and our states. And one of the things I propose for our social action people is actually get a core of people that study how to visit your representatives and present community feelings, community demands, inquire as to.
So I do caution that, we're really here to set up 4 events.
Right.
All right, so it's possible to build it and build it and build it, but I think some focus would probably be helpful in terms of us getting through tonight. Rich, you have your hand up.
Yeah, Bart, would you talk more about the difference between having Long Island plan the event
Mhm.
and hosting it versus having this group or some subset weighing in? Because the question is, each society has their own rituals, and from my perspective, because I'm going to answer my own question, I'm perfectly fine to let Long Island go through their rituals and they're the host.
Mhm.
Be done with it, as opposed to trying to have us, and I'm not even sure that the people on this call could agree as to whether we should or shouldn't have music, or whether we should or shouldn't have opening words and closing words and whatever the rituals are of your society. So I just wanted to, you floated it as we should get involved, and I'm questioning it.
Got it, thanks. Randy?
Yes, I think that I wouldn't see it as trying to impose any kind of order or miss the rituals and procedures that people have in their own society. I think it would be adding to that, having a more awareness that you are also giving a platform for the whole movement, and that you have a large Zoom audience that is present, that you could recognize at different points in your program, to let them know that they're out there, that they're appreciated, and we could share the number of people or something that would really try to unite it, that yes, bring them in a little more, kind of break the fourth wall kind of thing, rather than trying to homogenize an ethical culture platform. So I think your point is good, that we don't want to take away from the society's individual richness that gives a lot of meaning to their members, and that is quite diverse throughout our societies. But just to have an awareness and more of an outreach to the Zoom audience.
Yeah, at the same
I
time,
support that.
there's a lot of similarities.
Elaine has her hand up.
Oops.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just, 2 things. One is I wonder what the Long Island Society, what their expectations or what they would want from the other societies that join them. And 2, I would tend to agree with Rich. I found it really interesting to learn about traditions in other societies. So I'm in Bergen here, and it's pretty much the only one I've ever been to a platform at, probably. So anyway, I kind of enjoy doing something different, see how the other half lives, or that kind of thing.
Here. And I guess, what I was intending to say is that largely we want to make sure that when people are planning, they have an awareness that it's all the societies involved. I guess I was thinking more along the lines of what Randy was saying, remembering to, give shout outs to different groups and have kind of more of a sense of we're in a national moment. And the other piece is to make sure that the Long Island folks are aware of the resources that are available through our group here for the technical assistance. Because I think that's really a very important part. You need to have at least 4 people just doing the technology for these meetings. And also for some of the financial assistance if needed, with, do they need help with getting musicians? Do they need help with other kind of things that they would like to have something they wanted to make sure that it's going to get covered? Kind of thing that I had in my own head when I was making that statement. Do I have the sense that the people on this call are pretty cool with the idea that Long Island has a speaker coming in and we will go with that?
Yeah.
Yes,
All right. And if anyone on this call would like to be a contact with the Long Island group, let me know and I can put you in touch with Linda and company, and I'm sure they'd be happy to have communication in any event. Yes, Laura.
I'd be willing to do that. I haven't talked to Linda in years.
Beautiful. Excellent.
And, oh shoot, what's the other thing she said? I don't remember.
Oh,
I
okay.
correct myself.
That's great. You should know, by the way, I'm this session is being recorded, right? I never got that notification. I'm actually recording it in a different way right now so that when the recording goes out, they'll be able to see not just us talking, but also they'll be able to see the transcript. Because one of the things we've been finding is when people try to read the transcripts, it's very difficult to figure out what was going on.
right.
And if you see the person talking and you see the transcript, you can figure out kind of what was being said. So I'm curious about how that strikes people when you get it. So just know. Let's move into the January effort. And I've asked, oh,
Can we go back 1 minute?
Yeah.
When you do your planning, since this is my first meeting, are there responsibilities that each of us have for each platform? And how is that organized?
it's always been coalitions of the willing. And so this is an ad hoc planning group. And every time we've had a planning group meeting, it's been a different collection of people that's been on the call. We try to recruit people from the call first to as the folks who would help plan and organize things, and then also extend that invitation to other people who may not be on the call, but that we're aware of. These are people that have an interest in helping out with this.
Okay, I just remembered what I was going to say.
Hey, there you go.
I don't have to embarrass myself. Your comment about Russ Feingold. My guess is that most people younger than us really don't know about him, and there might need to be some kind of a summary bio kind of thing
Yeah.
to bring him into what the topic is and how that matters to us.
Of course, and the organization too. A
Yes.
little blurb on what is
Right.
the American Constitution Society. It sounds really cool. Sounds like we really need their help, but
A benefit of getting started at this time, yes, this is never months away, is that it gives us time to try to recruit folks from the Ethical Action Committee and to help the communications wing getting gear in a way of kind of stoking the interest as we go along. All right, let's move into January. I've asked Trish to join us tonight because we had, well, do you want to tell the whole story, Trish? Or, yeah, why don't you tell the whole story?
Sure. We were talking, the staff members were talking about Martin Luther King Jr. Day and all of the different things that societies might do to celebrate and honor him. Some of those will involve actual action, and some of them will be about education. And so part of our thinking was, well, would we want to have like a joint celebration? And I offered that the individual societies could still do their joint celebrations on the Sunday and Monday of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. But then we could come together for that last Sunday in January and share what we've done, share those experiences. I didn't mention this in our staff meeting, but I think it would be really cool to hear from children, not necessarily a fully child-led program, if that's not what the masses would want. But I think that they're pretty passionate about, you know, civil rights and human rights. And I think that'd be pretty cool to have them.
I'm going to fill in a few blanks. Your audio is a little spotty, and so there's been a few things that are missing. So the first thing to know is that this idea emerged out of a gathering of ethical education people. There's a number of societies in the New York region that have active programs and have kids that are already attending. Even though it's COVID and nobody wants to do anything on Zoom, they're still finding ways to do face-to-face gatherings. And so with the meeting of some of the organizers from those groups came the notion that it would be really helpful to do events that people could go out to as families. And one of the events that was identified was Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. And there was some bemoaning the notion that it's a day that's become kind of like other national holidays, meaning mostly about shopping and eating, and less about really engaging in the deeper understanding about why we would have a holiday around that. And this isn't to say that, you know, we're just not having enough snippets of Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches, but we're not having enough wholehearted effort to repair the harms of racism, for instance, as a thing. And so for the people present at that meeting, they were wondering in what way could we energize that Monday and really get a day of action organized and delivered that would be incorporating children and families as well as everybody else. And then perhaps the All Societies platform on the 30th of that month could be a reflection back on that day of service, basically, or pulling from that day of service pieces to kind of highlight what happened. It gets a little bit less clear there since we don't know exactly what would happen on the day of service. It's hard to know exactly what would carry forward to the 30th, but conceptually, to think about this as a time for people to focus their attention on really making that day a special day of service and finding a way to kind of celebrate the fact that that was done a few weeks later. Laura?
Yes. So I'm all excited
Okay.
because I would like to offer a little history about kids and the civil rights movement. In 1958 and 59, there was something called the March for Integrated Schools. And the dream team that organized all the marches recruited high school and college kids from all over the country. I was one of them. And ethical culture societies all over New York were involved in that. I have letters from societies. and I've been dying to find an avenue to educate people about this, because not even the African American History and Culture Museum in Washington has anything about it. Nothing, which upset me to no end. And I did my little advocacy thing and never heard anything. Anyway, if that would be useful as a part of educating, about the civil rights movement, honoring Martin Luther King, who was part of that, or the part of it. He actually didn't get to the 58 march because he was attacked and he was in the hospital. Oh. And other people moved in to take over, but he was there for 59. And all of this was in Washington at the Washington Memorial.
Jeff?
Yeah, I like this holiday because in my mind, it combines religiosity and social action. And something that I personally do each year is select something from the, complete works to read that I feel might be timely. But we might think of doing that, and not a whole book, or, even a speech if it's very long. I'm always interested that I have a dream speech. I'm much more interested in what went before it until he got into his preacher's, finale. But I think that there's just a lot of stuff. And I think at the NAACP always trying to get the strategy for struggle out of, King's speeches. So I think this is a really good exercise, and I thank the staff for coming up with it. Yeah, in Westchester we have an interfaith, and it's only a concert. It's not delivering speeches or anything, but it puts everybody in the mood. So if we could be part of putting people in the mood more than just the holiday, what is this holiday? It's us confronting, our ethical struggle with the call of social action. And here we had a leader who we continue to honor.
Mhm. And I wonder how easy it is to get clips,
To get,
video.
Yeah.
I have actually some great videos from Learning for Justice. It used to be Teaching Tolerance, put on by the Southern Poverty Law Clinic. And they've got some really beautiful videos that they even made for children and teens. So I will share those with the ethical education directors. But my husband thought that maybe if I turned my video off, it would help my audio.
yes,
So I'll share some of those videos and lesson plans. They're free. And then also, because those videos are so well done, we would have built-in clips if we wanted to use those. The Children's March really comes to mind.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Oh,
Yeah.
incredible.
So I guess the next question on that is, are there people in this meeting today that would like to take some ownership of this day and this collection of things?
I would definitely be willing to do that and share my experience.
Bart, is it Westchester that's offering to be the host?
Actually, there it wasn't a society that was offering to be the host. There was the staff was really the ones kind of pushing the idea. So it would be a welcome thing to have an in-person host, and Westchester certainly.
Somebody's phone.
Yep, that was me. I'm sorry.
So,
I strangled them.
Nice ring though.
so Trish, I'll help too.
As well. And we got some time. And so, right now we have a new president. And when you have a new president, the AEU, that means all the committees get revisited in terms of their leadership and their format and that sort of thing. So that process is underway. And I know there is some checking in terms of, who will be leading which committees. It's also the case that the Ethical Action Committee has had Carolyn as the chair,
Right.
but I don't think she can reasonably be expected to be both the chair of Ethical Action and the president of the AEU, knowing what those two roles have been like. And so she'll be actively campaigning now to find someone who would be taking over that chairperson's spot. The main thing is it'd be good for folks that are interested in working on this to be connecting with the Ethical Action Committee, and of course with the any of the children's and family programs, so that we can start building a sense of coordination and cooperation, I guess, around how we're going to greet this day. Go ahead, Trish.
Yeah, so I had kind of an unrelated or maybe related question. Do you have any sense that there's going to be a new executive director by then?
I certainly hope so.
So, and then, so my thought would be, all of this, on top of everything else is a lot for someone new, you know, to come into. So
A
I
good
guess
point.
some personal education and Bart probably handing over the baton.
Yeah, so what's supposed to happen is a interim executive director is being sought at this time, with the hope that that would be something that would be easier to put into play in a short period of time than to do an entire search, et cetera.
Mhm.
And so the hope is that that person will be in place by the end of this year. And then that would, and one way or the other, my agreement is to stay until the end of December if needed. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at this point. So there could potentially be a hiatus. There could potentially be a overlap before, you know, the end of the year, at which point, you know, we will work out an arrangement to kind of share the time and responsibilities, which I think would probably the best thing that we could do. But a lot depends on when a person is identified and when that person can begin. It does make sense that that we have a good, strong planning group for January for sure. So that way, whatever happens with the handoff won't be a problem for that day.
Yeah.
Any more on January?
Yeah, I wanted to give, oh, sorry, Jeff. I wanted to give a little shout out to Randy for his mom, because so I'm in St. Louis where Randy's mom Joyce is. And I don't know, 15 years ago, maybe, when I was the Sunday school director there, one of the things that the kids did was interview Joyce Best and another woman, Billy Tino, who were both very involved in the civil rights movement of the 40s and 50s and 60s. And so the kids interviewed these amazing women. The women told their stories, and then the children made vignettes and performed them at Platform based on the stories that they heard. So we had kids acting out a lunchroom counter sit-in. We had kids acting out Billy's experience of coming out and finding a burning cross on her lawn. Let's see, there were stories of trying to help a Black family buy a house. It was incredible. And Randy's mom is an absolute treasure. You know, there aren't many left from that era. It's pretty amazing.
And let me just, thanks for that. And a shout out, by the way, to Muriel Tillingast from the Brooklyn Society, who was part of one of the workshops most recently. She's somebody has a lot of deep experience in the civil rights movement as well. All right, Jeff, more on January? You're muted though.
Clarification, you were saying that social action in societies link into this effort. To what extent are societies linked to AU social action, either formally or informally? And are you suggesting we should have somebody from social action staying attuned to the January planning?
There are frequent calls for people to participate with the National Ethical Action Committee, and that is highly advised to, if your society does not have someone on that group, that's a great group to be part of. There's, in addition to that, an ethical action list, so that if people are more interested in being informed rather than to get involved in committee work, that's another way to kind of stay in the loop.
Okay, good, thank you.
Let's move into April, since Rich has already wet our whistle with the idea that maybe there's something else to be thinking about tonight. Rich?
Let me unmute. I'm unmuted.
We can hear you.
Good. One of the things about the Ethical Society is thinking about ethics. And one of our own members is Richard Feldman, who was the former head of the philosophy department at the University of Rochester,
Indeed.
and writes, and his whole speaking and his courses are all about ethics and how do we know what we know and thinking things through. He's in the process or started the Rochester Ethical Society,
Mhm.
and is also my former brother-in-law. So it's a complicated relationship.
Indeed. And Rich is wonderful. Yes.
So I reached out to Rich and I said, knowing that this meeting was coming up, I said, would you be interested in doing an all society presentation? He said yes. He said
Oh,
April would be good. And it comes at a time when he is finishing publishing a book. The title is not completely formed. It's not just an academic book. It's a book called Thinking Things Through. And I'm going to read you just a paragraph of what I put together based on reading the preface and the first chapter. So this is what we might write as to what this is all about. Join Professor Feldman for an introduction to such topics as the difference between facts and opinions, relativism and subjectivism, questions about whether all people have a right to their opinions, how to think about situations in which learning the truth may not be in your self-interest, and more. Much of our common sense thinking suggests that not having an opinion or changing one's mind is somehow a weakness. This thinking about thinking is counterproductive and undermines our ability to think things through effectively. The talk will examine some of the things that can get in the way of effectively thinking things through, not what to think about on particular issues. The discussion will frequently embrace 4 themes. Be clear about what the question is, pay attention to the meaning of words, take note of relevant distinctions, and don't confuse our failure to know what's true about a topic with there being no truth about the topic. Our politically polarized climate makes it all the more important to try to encourage thinking things through. There's room for hope. Professor Feldman will share some reasons for being hopeful. Anyway, I put that together and he said, hey, would you be my publicist? And, reading his preface and the first chapter and kind of pulling that too. But anyway, it's,
Rich, would you be willing to share that?
oh yeah, I'll send it to you immediately.
That'd be great. Thank
And
you.
you can send it out to the group.
So one thing that had been actually a hope of mine was that the Rochester group would be working its way toward becoming a member society of the American Ethical Union. So I've been in conversation with Rich and Andrea for quite a while now, as a matter of fact. And I routinely attend their meetings, which are excellent. And Rich is really great, and Andrea too. I might add that they're a couple. Laura, I see you waving. Yes.
Yeah, so Rich, I'm wondering if you've been thinking about how to take that topic, which is just, it's like huge and very relevant. And in April, we're kind of moving towards the midterms already. Or no,
Be over.
Would be over.
never mind.
They're past
Anyway,
that.
I'm
Yeah.
wondering if you were thinking about having a conversation with him about what you do when you're having a conversation with someone whom you know doesn't have the same definition of truth as you. What do we say? How do we handle that? And the thinking things through is a really important ingredient of that, and not jumping in, but like, taking a deep breath and just calming yourself down. And then how do you find a way to have a conversation with someone about that might get them to thinking things through? That's what I'm thinking.
We in Asheville have had a number of programs on that particular thing. I've talked to Richard Feldman about trying to maybe create a seminar series where people would sign up and, in adult ethical education,
Right.
4 or 6 or 8 sessions where we, really go through and think about all of the things that you're talking about, Laura. You cannot cover this in one session as an all society,
No, it's a teaser.
but
Yeah.
you could lay things out and you'd be scratching the surface. And I just would love the idea of an ethical education for adults where we have these seminars, and I don't know, they don't have to be Sunday, they could be on a Tuesday night, could be whatever, and we'll try to work out the details. This is the kind of thing that could be open to, again, a different kind of all society activity
Right.
enabled by Zoom, because what's the difference if Asheville and Rochester are getting together? We're doing it by Zoom. Why not open it up to
Right.
a much greater variety and then have breakout sessions, et cetera, et cetera?
So let me just say that great minds apparently think alike. And I was approached just about a month ago with a very similar idea. Didn't have the exact same topic, but certainly the same notion, which is why wouldn't we use Zoom for national gatherings of people around meaningful topics, basically,
Right.
and in small group settings. So I think that's a very friendly idea. I presented it to the membership committee, which is the group that works to develop programs to support existing societies' efforts. And so I think this folds in very nicely with that. And if you're game with it, I'll give your name, and John already knows Rich's name. And let's see if we can build into the mix. The person who contacted me was mostly looking for other people to work together with to develop this kind of thing. Exactly. So good timing.
I wonder, do you think something like a worksheet could come out of that? For
hope
the
so.
seminars?
I mean, there's all different kinds of things that I can imagine really being helpful. There's a strong need at this point for people to feel they have avenues available to them for training and
Yep.
development.
Right.
And this is very much within those lines, right? Which is, how do you work on your thinking, and how does that become part of your communication and you're connecting with people and that sort of thing. So I think it really fits in very nicely with the kind of things that people are looking for.
That's what I was thinking too.
Jeff?
Yeah, I think, given our experience with our living ethics program, a preliminary discussion about framing of questions and framing thought that gets away from current controversies, news reporting, and say, okay, what's really at stake here? That's a preliminary thing to thinking, and thinking like a humanist rather than some other demographic in the country. So I understand Laura's desire to get into the practice, but I think without that framing and somewhat of consensus, you're really rushing to the action without sort of developing a framework where everybody can talk about it. So yeah, I like that, and this idea is conforming very nicely with some of the later stuff that Hannah Arendt wrote, where she talks about Nazi suppressing thinking. It's as something that allowed them to establish autocratic control of their population. And that definitely is a threat that we're facing right now. So we got to know about our Constitution, about our Supreme Court, and about thinking.
Well, stay tuned. I'm feeling pretty confident that things are going to be coming out of this conversation. And let me just ask, Elaine, I know you were had some participation earlier on, but haven't heard your voice for a while. So I thought I'd check in and see, how's it going from your point of view with this meeting and with this set of plans?
It all sounds really exciting.
Great.
I'm gonna put it all in our calendar as soon as we get off.
You're here. That's like I say, one of the bigger frustrations for me has been how hard it's been to communicate the calendar consistently across our society. So anything that you can do within your own societies anyway to be connecting with the program people and the people who work on the calendar to get these dates carved in stone would be greatly appreciated.
Well, I am the program person, so.
Excellent. Well met, Elaine. All right. Well, I feel like we've done a lot tonight. Laura, is your hand up again, or is it
Oh, sorry.
still raised? Okay.
Lower.
I would like to recommend that we kind of consider closing down our meeting tonight. I think we've got a lot of planning going. There's some action steps that will need to be taken in terms of, I'll be connecting Laura for sure with the Long Island folks for this next meeting. Was there somebody else on for October as well? I don't remember. I'll review it.
I would be interested, but just in the sense of what could come from it,
Okay.
in terms of, not so much the content, but just sort of being in touch and sort of spurring my own thinking
Okay.
on follow.
All right. So, and I'll certainly be sharing the ideas for these meetings with the Ethical Action Committee and with the families and children activities, as well as with the communications folks. All right. So we'll get that up and rolling. And for January, I know we have Trish and Laura and
Yeah.
and again. All
Yeah.
right. So it looks like you guys are on for the All Society planning going forward, and we can always build out our groups. Yes, Laura.
Do you do a summary of the meeting
Uh,
to send to us?
yeah. So certainly, I'll send a summary of basically the plan,
Okay.
and I'll
Yeah.
send out the video as well as the transcript. So if people want to get into the details of it more fully, they can do that.
And will you send me Linda's contact info, which I thought I had, but I don't?
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. Well, all right. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming out tonight and working to get these plans underway. I'm actually very enthused about the headway that we've made and very appreciative of the work we've done tonight.
Thank you for a well-run meeting.
So, high fives all around, and we'll look forward to seeing you the next time around.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank
Good night.
bye.